Because I've got you, I've got you. Looking at the stars.
My name is Chad Comerford and I'm the CEO of Unified Music Group. And today I've got the pleasure of interviewing my friend Mojo, professionally known as Moju. So welcome. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's a real pleasure to interview you today. So at Unified, we're a music company that provides lots of different services to the music industry, including artist management. And our wonderful Sarah McMillan is the manager of Moju. So we get to work together on a professional level. And through that business, we've also formed a friendship. So it's great to be here with you today. So I guess tell us what you've been up to during the last sort of 12 months with everything that's been going on.
Mostly parkour, really. Just like, you know, no live music. So
Okay.
yeah, just parkour.
Cool. Okay. So how's that been impacting on your career?
No, I've been writing lots. I've been writing lots of music. It was kind of good horrible things that have been happening in the world, of course. And I guess I just took the time to be low key, and I'd been out on the road so much for the kind of 18 months prior to that I was sort of ready to take a little bit of downtime and work on new music. So yeah, that and family time.
Cool.
Just been...
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I remember last time I saw you play live was with the Hilltop Hoods at Rod Laver Arena, which was obviously a huge show. And then I also saw you play live at the Independent Music Awards in Adelaide, where you won Song of the Year, Artist of the Year, something pretty epic though.
Yeah.
But yeah, award-winning artist here. So it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Have you been missing the road?
In all honesty, not really. I started getting to that point. I miss being like with my band. I miss, I've missed playing music in a room with other musicians, but the traveling, I was kind of grateful to have a little rest from that, in all honesty, and excited to be working on new material, because I think that's the thing that I love most, is being in a studio. When I was younger, it was all about touring all the time, just couldn't wait to get on the road. And now I've really embraced being in the studio. I think that's the thing that I crave that, you know. So in a sense, that's been kind of good for me. But we just started playing shows again recently, and I've really loved it.
Yeah,
really nice.
Once again, I saw you recently with the State Orchestra at My Music Bowl at the start of the year, which was pretty epic as well. But you played me some of your new music and on the way here, and you've been recording it at home, which is pretty awesome. So you've set up a studio at home during COVID?
Yes, I felt like that was the sensible thing to do. I guess when they locked us down here in Melbourne the first time, I went, oh yeah, I don't really know how long this is going to go for. Maybe I'll just spend some time writing. And then by the time the second lockdown happened, I'd already kitted myself out.
That's so good.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is where it's happening for the next year, I guess.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I guess I was working from home, so I set up an office, but for you, the equivalent is a studio, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess we're here today as part of Mainstage to talk about music and brands, and a lot of our audience is going to be agencies and brands and those kinds of people. And I guess one of the brand campaigns that you have been involved in that we wanted to talk about was the Bonds campaign, the Feel the Pride range. So I don't know, do you want to sort of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I guess Bonds do a Pride campaign every year during Pride. I'm not actually sure how long that's been going for, but I feel like it's been a while now. It seems to be one of the bigger ones that I've been aware of anyhow. And they invited me to come along and record a version of the iconic Donna Summer track, I Feel Love, which was pretty daunting, but I thought it was a fun challenge to do. So I kind of jumped at that opportunity. I was like, you know, when you're just sitting around making music at home, it was kind of like a perfect way to sort of, continue working and do something really outside of my wheelhouse, outside of my comfort zone, and just, yeah.
That's awesome. So you recorded at home?
Partially, yeah. And also at another friend's home studio as well. So.
Cool, that's awesome. Well, I reckon we should watch the video because we got it queued up.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can talk a little bit more about how it came together and all the different parts to
cool.
it. So
great.
Yeah, let's play the video now. Awesome. How good is that?
So that was also recorded in my home studio with just a few friends. No, it wasn't at all.
Well, what I love about this campaign is obviously you featured in it as the talent, but also you recorded the song for the campaign as well.
Yeah.
So I guess as we're here today talking about brands and music and different ways in which we can collaborate as the music industry with the brand and agency community, it's just good to see that example of those two uses of both yourself and the song. I guess what was it like? Do you have any positive, negative, just constructive, or anything from the campaign that you want to share, or any learnings that came from it for you?
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge learning curve for me because I hadn't been involved in a campaign, I think, to that extent before. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was it's really important to, I guess, communicate very well. There's a very long chain of communication that goes on between client and artist in these situations, particularly when in regards to the recording the song. So for me, I think that was the thing that could have been fine-tuned a little to make the process a little bit smoother. Just in terms of, I think my expectation was that everybody understood what's involved in making a song, which is not always the case, different people have different jobs and don't necessarily, I guess when you're in advertising, don't necessarily know what goes on in a studio. And also, I don't really know what goes on at their end either. So I'm not sure what, unless it's communicated to me, I don't really know what they need either. So I think that was probably the biggest learning curve, was just understanding how those things work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, in my experience working between music and brands, there's always been music. We generally take a long time to do things, as in things take a lot longer than a lot of people realize. Like you said, whether it's to make a song or whether it's to prepare a campaign brief. And I think the more time we can have for these things, the better.
Yeah.
I mentioned Sarah earlier from Unified. So how involved was Sarah in this? Were you working with her and the agencies to sort of put this all together?
Yeah, Sarah's amazing. I definitely don't think that I could have, I really rely a lot on Sarah, particularly in situations like this, So I think that it was sort of like Bonds were talking to level 2, and level 2 was speaking to Sarah, and then Sarah was relaying that information to me. And then I was relaying that information to my collaborators, who Henry Jenkins actually produced the song, and we co-write together a lot. So, and because we're in lockdown or we were like, it was sort of in and out. It was like around the time where restrictions were changing a bit, but a lot of it was done remotely for us. So we weren't able to actually be in a studio together. It was about me passing that information on to him, and then him creating files and sharing them back to me, and then me like tracking vocals at home and then sharing them back to him, and him processing those vocals, and then someone has to mix it, and then someone else has to master it. And there's a lot of people that are involved in another friend of ours, Lewis Coleman, who played a lot of the instrumentation on that track. Like, the three of us are conversing about how the song sounds, what we're going to do, how we're going to approach like reinterpreting this work and creating demos and sharing those files back and forth and editing and adjusting. And, there's like, the creative process is really hard to define anyway, but when you're doing it remotely like that, like 3 different people in separate studios just sharing files back and forth. Not necessarily, I think Henry was in WA at the time, I was in New South Wales, and Lewis was in Victoria, and it was like over Christmas break. So it was, there was a lot of
the COVID,
potential for things.
The COVID creative process.
It's a whole other experience. So,
wow. So we were talking earlier about Bonds in particular. When you choose to work with a brand like Bonds, like how important is it to you that you sort of understand what the brand's about?
It's really important to me. I think, as someone who's always pretty outspoken about just about anything, really, like however I'm feeling and whatever I'm thinking, I definitely take that stuff seriously. And for me, I guess like working with a brand like Bonds, a huge incentive for me to, want to be involved was that I had seen their process, and I had seen, like I'd been involved the year before on a much smaller scale, but I had an idea of who was going to be involved, and I saw that there was a lot of consideration and thought and effort put into, I think, diversifying talent and, the inclusion of many different people from different, I guess, aspects of the LGBTIQA plus community, lots of intersectionality. And I think for me, that was really exciting to see. And, obviously, the fact that they wanted to include me in their campaign sort of showed me that they were interested in, I guess, sort of working outside of the norm anyway. I'm not your usual underwear model. Or so yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. That's great though that you can have that affinity with a brand like that, or you can at least see their values, and that sort of attracts you to wanting to work with someone like that. Yeah,
I feel like they're committed to inclusion and
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I guess, like, as I've already mentioned, there's a lot of agencies and brands kind of watching. Are there any tips that we have, as an artist to them as far as wanting to work with music that you might have for them?
Yeah, I guess, as I sort of touched on before, I think it's really important to be clear and articulate like what it is that you want. I think for me, what I experienced was often I wasn't 100% sure if everyone was like happy with where things were at, or if they wanted changes to be made. And I think there were often times when I was waiting for feedback that didn't come, and then I just got given a new deadline. So it was like, oh, okay, so I guess we're moving forward. And I think the expectation was that we were already moving forward, and that they were, they were wondering why we were taking so long. So for me, it was like, I'm waiting to know if we can move from demoing into tracking. Can we move from tracking into mixing? Can we move from mixing into mastering? And waiting for approval at every stage of the process, but not necessarily knowing. And I think the expectation at the other end was that, okay, cool, we know that that's been done. So, like why aren't we at the next phase yet? Yeah.
So communication.
That's really
on both sides.
The heart and soul of it, is it? In any relationship, it's good communication.
Life 101, communicate.
Yeah.
It is good though, like it's good to know and it's good to be able to share that kind of learning.
Yeah. I think another thing that maybe like I experienced with the Bonds campaign too was just this was separate to the music thing, this was more in general, was that I think it would be really cool when you're working with lots of different body types and expressions of gender to be really sensitive and considerate towards different people's levels of comfort in a filming scenario.
Yeah.
I think that was something that that's some feedback that, I noticed, I think could have been like slightly more considered.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, look, thanks so much for being a part of this today. It was awesome to chat and
No worries. Thank you.